Today, you're going to learn 9 voiceover tips that are going to help you record better sounding voiceover. Even though these tips are easy to implement, if you skip just one, it could hurt the quality of your voiceover recording, and it could be preventing you from getting voiceover jobs. So these are the tips that I suggest most often, and once you make the fix, your voiceover is going to sound better, and you're going to have a better shot at winning some voiceover jobs like Katie did. Katie sent me this email and said she was hired for a voiceover job just one day after she made some small changes. By the end of this video, you're going to know all 9 voiceover tips that are going to make the biggest impact to your recordings. It's all coming up. Hey, it's Jason with Voice Acting 101, where you can find videos and guides to help you start and grow a thriving voiceover career. Today, I've got 9 tips for you that are going to make the quality of your voiceover recordings sound incredible. So let's go ahead and jump into tip number 1, which is to find a quiet place to record. There are sounds and noises from within your home and also out in the neighborhood that you're probably so used to hearing that you don't even notice them anymore. Outside noises might be loud neighbors, lawnmowers, street noise, airplanes, or even dogs barking. Then there are the noises that come from within your home, and that could be your kids playing, it could be the TV blasting in the background, an air conditioner running, or maybe even just a refrigerator humming. Even though you're able to tune them out, your microphone is not able to, so all these noises may end up creeping their way into your voiceover recording. The good news is that most places are quiet enough to record voiceover. Even if you're interrupted from time to time, it's not that big of a deal. You can usually work around it. For the inside noise, all you got to do is walk around, find whatever's making the noise, and turn it off. That's a pretty easy fix. But since you don't have much control over the outside noises, the best thing that you can do would be to set up your studio at the far end of your house, which gives the most distance between where you're recording and wherever that outside noise is happening. Or you can also just record during certain times of the day when the noise isn't there. If the noise is just too much to handle, or you're being interrupted too often, or if you happen to live next door to a fire station, then the next best option would be an isolated vocal booth. A vocal booth is built in a way to prevent sound waves from entering the booth. You can build your own custom booth using plans that you find online, or you can buy one that's already built from companies like Whisper Room or Studio Bricks. These are going to help block out any of the outside noises that you're dealing with and give you a soundproof setting where you can record your voiceover in peace. These can be pricey though, costing between $3,000 and $10,000 for a vocal booth. So if you just find the quietest space in your home, that may be good enough to start with. Now that you've found the quiet place to record, let's move on to tip number 2, which is to record your voice and not the room. So tip number 1 was about controlling the noise that happens outside your room. Tip number 2 is about controlling the noise inside the room. Properly treating your room acoustically may be the most important thing that you can do to have better sounding voiceover. Every room is going to sound and record differently. If you think about how you sound when you're in the shower versus when you're in a gymnasium, they all sound different. As an example, in a normal untreated room, your voice is going to bounce off the walls and the ceiling and the floor, and the microphone's going to pick up that bounce. It's called room reflection, and this can be very distracting, and it can also make your voiceover sound bad. Luckily, room reflection is pretty easy to eliminate. The easiest and most cost-effective way is to just move your setup into a closet where you're surrounded by clothing, and that's going to help reduce that room reflection. I know several voice talents who work from closets just because it sounds so good. Another option is to buy thick moving blankets with grommets like these, and you can just hang them from the ceiling and create a voiceover tent. If you'd rather just work in an open room, then your best bet is to just get some acoustic foam panels like I have in my studio here, and you can place them on the walls, and that's going to stop that room reflection as well. Now, one other quick thing to note before we move on to tip number 3, and that is to be careful of the noises that you introduce to the room. So for example, if your computer has a fan that makes noise, it's got to be located outside the room and away from the microphone. Voiceover tip number 3 is to use a decent mic. Believe it or not, there are a ton of microphone options out there that you can use. They work very well for voiceover, but there are also a few that you absolutely should not use for recording voiceover. You don't want to use a webcam microphone, a Zoom, or any kind of a handheld device's built-in microphone, your smartphone, or a camera's internal microphone. These mics just aren't good enough. They're not going to pick up the richness and clarity of your voice like you need in a voiceover recording. Now, two of the most popular microphones in voiceover, one would be the one right here. It's the Neumann TLM-103, also the Sennheiser MKH-416, but they both come with a price tag of around $1,000. If those are more than your budget can handle, no worries. There are a ton of microphone options out there for voiceover that are more affordable. One example would be the MXL VG67, which sounds surprisingly similar to the Neumann TLM-103, which again is this microphone, but the MXL only costs $80. Check out the description below for a link to a post where you can hear just how good an $80 microphone sounds. Now, one thing to keep in mind regarding microphones, the more expensive the microphone is, the more important it becomes that you treat your room properly. And this is because the more expensive microphones tend to pick up everything, good and bad. Voiceover tip number 4 is to keep your distance from the microphone. So think of the microphone like an ear. The closer you get to it, the quieter you'll need to speak, and the warmer your voice is going to sound. But if you get too close, you're going to end up with unwanted noises like plosives and pops and clicks and mouth noises. In general, you want to keep around 6 inches between your mouth and the microphone, which you can do easily by just stretching out your pinky to your thumb, and that's pretty much 6 inches between your mouth and the microphone. That's the sweet spot. Another way that you can improve the quality of your voiceover is to use a pop filter, and that is voiceover tip number 5. The purpose of a pop filter is to prevent plosives. A plosive is when a blast of air hits the microphone and makes a loud, distracting explosion-like sound. It's most commonly noticed on words that contain P's and B's. You can avoid plosives easily just by where you put the microphone. So instead of speaking directly into the microphone, all the air is going to hit the microphone if you do it that way. If you place the microphone slightly off to the side, the air is going to go past the microphone and it's not going directly into the microphone. If you don't want to have to think about it as much, just grab a pop filter like this one, put it on your microphone, and it makes plosives almost impossible. Voiceover tip number 6 is to check your recording levels before you begin. There's nothing more frustrating than having to do something over again, so that's why it's important that you do a level check before you start recording your voiceover. If you record your voiceover too low, it's just going to be too quiet to hear, and you can amplify it in post-production, but you're also going to be amplifying the noise, so your voiceover won't be as clean as it could be. And if you record with the level too high, you could end up peaking, which means your voiceover could end up sounding distorted. So since this is a video of voiceover tips on how you can make incredible sounding voiceover, here's how to get the optimal recording level. Speak into the microphone at a normal volume while watching the meter in your audio recording software. Adjust the mic level knob on your audio interface until you peak around -5 decibels. You don't want to see your meter go any higher than -3 decibels. Number 7 on this list of voiceover tips is to read from a screen and not from paper. By not printing your script on paper, you'll be helping to save the environment. Plus, you can make quick changes to your script if you need to. And you don't have to worry about the sound of paper shuffling making its way into your recording. Just be sure to use a mouse that scrolls silently so you don't have to worry about the little clicking noise making its way into your recording. Or if you're working off a laptop or a tablet, that's even better as you can use your fingers to scroll. Tip number 8 is to keep it simple. A lot of people cringe when they hear the sound of their own voice. They compensate for the "I can't believe that's what I really sound like" by messing around with the noise reduction, EQ, and compression settings that they find in their audio editing software to make it closer to what they think sounds good. Unfortunately, this usually means that they go overboard. Noise reduction is going to remove some of the low-end frequencies of the noise that you may hear in your voiceover, but it's also going to remove some of the clarity and the quality of your voice. So you're better off just following tip number 1 and just finding a quiet space and not using a noise reducer at all. A small amount of processing can add some rich, warm texture to your voice, but if you overdo it, it can also just ruin your entire voiceover recording. And most clients are going to end up tweaking the EQ and compression settings once they have the file, so you're better off just sending them an untouched, dry file that they can work with. But if you just can't help yourself and you want to add some kind of processing, it's best to keep it simple. If you're using Adobe Audition, you can add some simple processing by going to Effects, Amplitude and Compression, Hard Limiter, and using the preset Light Limiter to even out the recording. That brings us to the final voiceover tip, which is to save your files in the correct format. Saving your file in the wrong format could make your voiceover end up sounding like an AM radio station. But with options like Monkey's Audio, FLAC, and OGG, it can be confusing. Now, this may look different depending on which software you use to record and edit, but the values are going to be the same no matter what you're using. So to keep it simple, always record your voiceover with a sample rate of 44.1 or 48 kilohertz. Under channels, just select mono, which is fine for voiceover. For bit depth, you want to go with 16 or 24. Either one is going to be fine. Once you've got these set, you can go ahead and record, and the quality is going to sound great. Then when you go to save your file, the most common file formats for voiceover are MP3, WAV, and AIF. If this is for our client, you'll want to ask what they prefer. Otherwise, just know that WAV and AIF files will preserve the high-quality recordings, but create massive file sizes. MP3 files end up being much smaller in size, and as long as you save out at 192 kilobits per second or higher, you're not going to notice much difference in quality. So there you go, 9 voiceover tips to help your voiceovers sound incredible. If you enjoyed this video, make sure that you click the button below to subscribe to my channel. Also, head to voiceacting101.com, where you'll find more free voiceover guides and resources to help you start and grow a thriving voiceover career. Before you go, I'd love to know, what does your recording space look like? Are you recording from a closet? Are you in a room with foam on the walls? Or do you have a vocal booth? Let me know in the comments below. Then there are the noises that come from within your home. Okay. Now, one other quick thing to note before... Why is it doing that? Okay. Try it again.